Hey friends, welcome back to another video of my college life journal. In the last video, I finished the actual journal. So in this video, I'm just going to fill you in on what I did during my time at the University of Arizona. But instead of boring you with all the education, finance major stuff, I'm going to skip right to the best part, which was my internship with the football team. One of my main factors for choosing a college, and if you know me in person, this isn't a surprise, but the main factor was sports. Or, not the main factor, but one of the main factors, and that's why I applied to universities that had huge athletic departments like Arizona and Texas and North Carolina, Chapel Hill, because, yeah, sports is my life, and I think that if you go to college, it's just camaraderie and spirit, and I just like that entire atmosphere. When I transferred in as a junior, I wanted to start as an intern somewhere right away, but you kind of have to apply and interview while I would have still been in New Jersey, so that wouldn't have worked out. So my entire first year at Arizona, I think I checked the athletic department's website like every day for internship postings. And I even went as far to join the Sports Marketing Association, which was pretty much just a club that met once a week, and there was a bunch of other kids that enjoyed talking about sports, which was fine, and I guess I had fun, but it really didn't provide much opportunity unless you wanted to work at the box office and sell tickets for volleyball. But at the end of my first year, the Sports Marketing Association held an event where they invited every team at the university to present internships for the following season. And one of the people that was there was the director of recruiting for the football team. And while everyone else was asking him what a director of recruiting does or what scouting is, and that should have been red flags that they don't get the internship. But either way, I was asking him about official visits and mentioning high school players by name who I knew the team was looking at, because that's what I did. Instead of staring at Facebook during classes, I watched film of random high schools playing football in Mississippi. And so I thought I had a real opportunity at the internship when I applied, but guess what? I didn't even get an interview. So going into the summer before my senior year, I was feeling pretty defeated again, and all I could think about was just finishing my education and then moving back to New Jersey, and I really wanted no part of like trying to get an internship, and I'm kind of mad at myself now thinking about it, like that I really gave up that easy. But two of the football coaches lived in the same apartment complex that I did, and sometimes I would see them with their wives down at the pool, and we would like shoot the shit and talk about the team and some recruits that they had over the weekend, and I always seemed to impress them, but it never really evolved. Like, none of them ever went out of their way to say, hey, like, why don't you come in, like, we have spots open, even though they had power to do something like that. But either way, I was telling one of the coaches that I applied for the recruiting internship, didn't get it, and he mentioned to me that the equipment room is always looking for help. Obviously, I'm not going to clean helmets and fold laundry, but it was just a way in. So I emailed the equipment manager, told him I was interested. He emailed me back like a day later and said, yeah, it's mine if I want it. The problem is, I never told him I was in a wheelchair, and this is something I don't recommend, and I've never done before or after that, but I kind of had this taste in my mouth that the first person saw my wheelchair, and that kind of maybe swayed him not to interview me, even though none of the job required physical labor or anything that I couldn't do while being in a wheelchair. And obviously this job with the equipment room did involve labor, but I just thought, you know what the hell? If I get it, and he says yes without interviewing me, which he did for some reason, and once I was there, I could show that I had value to the team. So he tells me to come to the stadium to meet me so he can show me around. I'm the only person in the lobby of the football facilities, and he walks right by me and starts calling for Chaz. And I'm like, dude, I'm right here. I'm the only person in the room. Obviously pretty shocking to him that I was in a wheelchair, but he can't just be like, well, never mind, you're disabled. Like, I don't think he wanted to get sued or in trouble. But he kind of flipped it and was like, wow, this is amazing. I've been looking for someone to help update our inventory database because the technology we use is old, and I was all about it because I was like, you know what, I don't care what I do, I just want to be with the team. While he was touring me around, we actually passed by the director of recruiting, who ended up being really patronizing and thought I was only there for a tour, which I don't know why the equipment manager would be touring me around. That seems like a PR person. But either way, I was like, no, someone else hired me. You missed out. Anyway, I spent the next month learning about databases and BS like that, trying to get ready to overhaul his equipment inventory system and try to make it more efficient like he was talking about. But when I showed up for the first day, he's like, oh no, you're not going to be doing that. You're going to be observing training table. And that was just a really fluffy way for him to say, you're going to be taking attendance at dinner. Even though it wasn't much responsibility, it was still something, and it put me in a spotlight to know who everyone was on the team and for them to potentially know who I was. I mean, there was a list of 100 players and coaches and assistants and trainers and the rest of the staff that I had to memorize their faces as they came in for meals, and I wasn't complaining because one, I got free meals, and two, well, I got free meals. The problem was I started taking attendance on my laptop, and then about a day or two in, my boss is like, oh no, the head coach does not allow technology at dinner. And I'm like, well, if you want me to do the job, I kind of have to use my computer, which he really didn't want to hear. So while players walked in bunches of 10 or 20 or 30, I had to whisper their name to my nurse or aide or whoever was with me that night for them to check it off on their list. Obviously, it's not a very hard job, but for some reason every night another student manager would sit with me, and then I began to realize that maybe they didn't actually trust me, but they gave me this job just to appease me. But one night during dinner, it was really quiet, there was no one around, and the head coach walked past to leave, and I kind of, say hi to him and introduce myself, and then I very casually mention how I'm taking attendance, and I have to do it on paper right now, and it's hard for me to pick up a pencil or a pen, and I asked them, hey, can I do it on my laptop? I know that you don't like technology. And his answer was, I never said that. If you need to use your computer to get your job done, then you should use your computer. I just want you to be able to do your job. But that's not all. He then told me to come see him in his office once the season ended. And in my head, I'm freaking out because I'm like, hell yeah, I'll come see you, talk football with a Division I football coach. Of course, the next day, my boss yells at me for going over his head, but he then couldn't tell me to not use my computer without sounding like a jerk, so they had to be accommodating and let me use my laptop, which no one cared about except this one person. So the team goes 10-2. We beat the Arizona State Scum Devils to win the Pac-12 South. We go to the Fiesta Bowl. I got to go to a legitimate New Year's Six Bowl game in Arizona, and we lost, but that was only because of terrible clock management. But that's neither here nor there, and if any of those coaches see this video, we lost that game because you forgot we had timeouts. After the season ends, there's really not a whole lot for me to do. I mean, the team's not having breakfast, lunch, or dinner, so there's nothing for me to take attendance at. And the equipment manager, I thought, would then want me to start his inventory project, but he kind of forgot I existed. So then I went to a person that remembered I existed, which was the head coach. And one day I just happened to work up enough courage to ride the elevator all the way up to the top floor of the football facility and approach his office. And then of course his secretary was very rude and wanted to know how I got up there and who I was. And I'm like, I see you every day at work here. You come to dinner. Then she ultimately tells me, well, coach isn't here. You have to come back. I'll come back then because he said he wants to see me. He invited me to come talk to him. The next day, I show up again and we go around and around the same circle. She wants to know who I am, how I got up there, and I'm like, lady, listen, coach wants to see me. Just go in the office and tell him Chaz is here. He'll know who I am. Finally, she stands up, goes into his office, and let me tell you, it was just an amazing feeling when he came out and was ecstatic to see me and kind of rubbed it in her smug face. I kind of enjoyed that a lot. But as we're sitting in his office, he's like, yeah, I don't know why you didn't get the recruiting internship and why you're in the equipment room. You can't do laundry or push around baskets full of pads and clean the locker room. That's not what you should be doing. So then he does something pretty amazing, and he calls in the director of recruiting and says, hey dude, Chaz now works for you, like he should have the entire time. It honestly felt like justice. It felt like sweet, sweet justice. And I ended up doing what I should have been doing the entire time, which was watching film and categorizing it and putting it into the databases so the coaches could look at it after. But the only reason I got myself in that position was because I took attendance. So I'm not mad that I had to go through any of that other BS because it gave me exposure to the right people. If I just sat in the back of the equipment room on a computer all day doing inventory, then that would have never happened. And I would have never talked to the head coach. I would have probably never befriended any of the players or the other coaches or been in a position where I could actually gain tangible experience to put on a resume, because it's not much to say I interned for the football team and then the bullet point below that is I took attendance. Either way, I got to be a part of one of the greatest seasons that Arizona football had seen in a very long time. But yeah, that's all I got for now. I know this video might be a little bit longer than some of my other ones. Either way, if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Comment below, tell me what college you follow. Maybe you love Arizona football as much as I do. Maybe you have some questions about my internship. I'd love to answer them. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @TheChazHayden. As always, be different, leave a trail. I see you. Bear down, Arizona.